the waiting room afterwards. Okay, welcome to our talk tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Trish. I'm a local nutrition gut specialist. Well, not really local, I'm Aussie. I happen to live in Hampton, and I've had a really interesting health journey. I've had a couple of severe head traumas in my life. I was very healthy up until the age of 32. Up until the age of 32, I had chronic respiratory challenges, which turned out to be due to leaky gut and candida and Lyme's disease. I self-medicated right through my late teens, early 20s with lots of recreational drugs, particularly amphetamines, and felt that I did my final year of university with honours, high distinctions, doing all my study on amphetamines. Drug and alcohol misuse in my history. And now that I've been sober for quite some time, it sort of led me down the rabbit hole of menopause and, oh, right, ADHD, which is sort of like, seems like a lot of my clients as well are, oh, yeah, maybe I've had these coping mechanisms all my life and maybe that's why. And now that I'm in the menopause, I find that I'm not able to mask those symptoms so easily. You know, things started to really fall apart and just happened to coincide with menopause, COVID, global shit show, excuse my language, but having to pivot my business and all that entailed, and extreme anxiety, real severe loss of confidence and severe stress, which then led me down the rabbit hole of ADHD. So I hope to bring to you tonight a collection of my own experience, but also as a nutritionist, what I know that is working in the field, that is well researched, that is based on clinical trials, some of the latest research that can really hopefully be beneficial to you. So we will look at diet, lifestyle and supplements, as well as the tests that I do that can really help to get to some of the underlying contributing factors to your symptoms. All right, so let me share my screen. And we'll start from the beginning. Okay, so I'm a qualified nutrition gut specialist, and I let me just hide this floating meeting panel thing. I was awarded UK Nutritionist of the Year in 2019, and my gut healing program won the Janie Lee Grace Health and Wellness Industry Awards in 2020. It got gold medal in 2020. But I've had a really interesting health journey. Like up until the age of 32, I had chronic respiratory challenges and asthma. And then I worked with a nutritionist who diagnosed me with candida, leaky gut, Lyme's disease. And ever since then, I'm really proud to say that I've been medication-free for 22 years. But up until that point, I was really poorly as a kid, always the first person to get sick. I was given allergy tests when I was 14. I was told I was hyperallergic and told to have this medication that I'd need to be on for the rest of my life. Now, I tell you that story because I think it's really important to have this consciousness of the ability for the body to heal and the body to feel good, despite being given a diagnosis, despite being given, having been chronically unwell. Now, I had two major head traumas. I was hit by a car when I was 14, walked out in a daydream behind the school bus and was hit by a car. And I also I'm very drawn to high adventure sports, and I broke my neck snowboarding in my late 20s. And again, I tell you that because I have an experience of chronic pain, managing chronic pain and all that entails. So I work with clients, particularly women over the age of 40, to help navigate better digestion, greater energy, more balanced hormones, and hope to live a really vibrant life that is full of energy and feeling light and bright and full of vitality. I have written a book. I've recently published a book, and if anyone is free to come along to the book launch next Thursday at the Long Table, you'd all be really welcome. It's just been published, so I'd love to see you there. Okay, let's run through what we're going to be talking about tonight. We'll talk about your your symptoms or your struggles around, perhaps around food, but also around things like brain fog and energy. We'll talk about the link between the brain, your hormones, and gut health. And we will look at root cause assessments. So some of the tests that I do on thyroid, gut health, hormones, even the neurotransmitters. We'll talk about some of those tests that are available. Heavy metals and mold will definitely get a mention. That was really my situation, that I had a lot of mold and I had parasites. That was definitely driving some of my symptoms, making them worse. We're going to cover a little bit about diet. Now, I know that diet is not a cure, but as a nutritionist, I know that diet can really help. And there is a lot of things that you can do. But I also want to mention that we aim to remove any guilt and shame around substance misuse, binge eating, and obsession around food, because I know that that can be, very much an emotional crutch that we can rely on when we're feeling overwhelmed and stressed or exhausted. I'm going to mention some of the foods to avoid, if possible. Or I like to apply the 80-20 rule with my clients, to say like 80% of the time you're trying to really do your best to avoid these foods that are definitely going to be exacerbating your symptoms. We'll talk about the foods that can help with dopamine, progesterone, serotonin, your thyroid, and have a look at some of the natural treatment protocols in terms of diet, lifestyle, and supplements. There will be time for questions at the end. So if you've got any questions, you can, as we go, if you want to pop them in the chat, and I can come back and answer them at the end. I always say to my clients, your body whispers a long time before it starts to shout. And I would really encourage you to be your own doctor, to really listen in to what your body is saying, whether your body is whispering, or is it shouting. And some of the loud whispers or the shouts that I see regularly in clinic with a lot of my clients can be a big range of things. Joint pain, soreness, sluggish digestion, obviously a range of gut problems like constipation, bloating, IBS, even IBD, inflammatory bowel disease, SIBO. Insomnia, of course, that's very much linked to digestion and to neurotransmitters. Low mood, brain fog, irritability. And as we're going through this list, maybe have a little bit of a think about, some of your symptoms. How many are there? I get my clients to write a complete list down. Hi, Heidi, welcome. Brilliant. I do get to see who's in the waiting room. That's good. Welcome, Heidi. We've just started. We're just talking about some of the whispers or the shouts. The body whispers a long time before it starts to shout. So maybe you've had trouble breathing, or you've had skin breakouts, you're feeling jittery, maybe you're feeling really low, you're feeling like a failure. Maybe you are relying on, or you have in the past, like my history, relying on substances to sort of moderate the mood and calm the mind. Maybe you're generally feeling puffy, low, tired. Maybe you already have diagnosed thyroid dysfunction, slowed metabolism, becoming accidentally overweight. Asthma was one of my big symptoms. Impulsive and restless eating, poor concentration, headaches, migraines, panic disorder, high anxiety, hyperactivity. These are all symptoms. They can be all symptoms of the menopause. They can be all symptoms of a sluggish liver. They can be all symptoms of symptomatic of a thyroid that's out of balance. And of course that we know that these are also symptoms associated with ADHD. So why do we focus on the gut health component of our lives, when it comes to balancing our hormones, balancing our thyroid? Because the thing is, if we don't have really robust gut health, we are much more prone to burnout. The body needs to metabolize important nutrients. And if we cannot metabolize those foods properly, we're going to experience changes in mood, food allergies, accidental weight gain. belly bloat, IBS, constipation, they're all much more prevalent in people with ADHD. Low mood, fatigue, feeling constantly tired all the time. And if you are on medication, we know that the medication can cause constipation or nausea or even internal bleeding. And I find it really interesting to know that women are much more likely to struggle with ADHD. Ratio male to female is a ratio of 1 to 3. And these symptoms become so much more obvious as our hormones change, as we reach the perimenopause and the menopause. But even, childhood anxiety, it's occurring in 1 in 4 children, particularly in those teenage years. I know all about it with the 2 teenage boys that are really struggling at times. And pregnancy, of course, is a really crucial time to be focusing on your gut health. That the in vitro nutrients that are available to a baby, really, really important for their mental health as they get older. So what are the elements of your lifestyle that are impacting your gut? What causes gut dysbiosis? We know, Hippocrates said ages ago, all disease begins in the gut. So some of the lifestyle implications that can cause a gut dysbiosis, and what I mean by dysbiosis is that the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, we have this symbiotic relationship between the good and bad, but in a dysbiotic gut, there's that relationship between the good and bad. The bad start to take up far too much space, and there's an imbalance. So if we think of this in terms of our garden, we're nourishing our inner kingdom, and we're nourishing our garden. What happens is that, there becomes an imbalance, and the bad bacteria tends to take up a lot of space, and there's a threat to the permeability of the gut lining. And then what happens is toxins will flow across into the bloodstream, and that causes all sorts of problems. So some of the contributing factors are poor sleep. We know that when we rest, we're resting, we're digesting, we're healing. And when we're not sleeping very well, especially when we're really stressed, then this will have an impact on our gut health. Drug and substance misuse has a big impact. Trauma has a big impact. Medication use over a long period of time. Stress and loneliness, very modern day challenges for a lot of people, will have an impact. Environmental factors, particularly in terms of chemicals in your home, mold in your home, dust microbes in your home, and heavy metals, whether it's in medications, in your diet, in your lifestyle. Exposure to heavy metals can be very detrimental. Any babies, if you were born preterm, I was born preterm. I'm a twin. I was half the size of my brother. That has definitely had a long-term impact on my gut. I can see that in test results. My epithelial lining, my mucosal barrier is compromised because I was born preterm, and also my twin brother, we're both vaginal deliveries. He got all of the first phase of that vaginal mucosal intake. He got that. I didn't. And he went home from the hospital with my mum. I didn't. I stayed in the hospital. So he got all the first bit of the breast milk, the colostrum, that sort of thing. And, that hasn't had an impact. So preterm delivery of babies, but also babies that are being born by cesarean, we know that microbiome, that beginning of the microbiome has been compromised. So anyone that that has had a cesarean baby, really worthwhile delivering good probiotics really early phase, like even putting good probiotics onto your nipples if you're breastfeeding can be really beneficial. We know that long-term chronic pain causes inflammation. Inflammation causes gut permeability. Genetics, you can have a predisposition towards hypothyroidism, type 2 diabetes. You can be born, we're all born in with a level of toxicity. It's not our parents' fault. It's not their parents' fault. It just is what it is. But when I'm working with clients, I like to look at 3 generations of lifestyle and environmental factors to know how it is that you've got to where you are today. But we do know that long-term antibiotic use in pregnancy increases the chance of mental health problems in children massively. I think I read in one clinical trial that it can increase up to 60% chance if you've had antibiotics in pregnancy or in the first couple of weeks of, if you've had mastitis and you've had IV antibiotics or something like that, then you've got your kids are more likely to have anxiety and depression. And of course, our hormones and our menopause has a massive impact on the gut. The gut lining changes, that the whole of the skin changes. You can go over, it always seems like overnight we have this dramatic change in the skin elasticity, but we also have that change in that elasticity within the gut lining during the menopause. We tend to lose that elasticity so easily, and that will definitely have an impact on your gut. Stress will have a massive impact on your brain, and let me show you how. Stress will impact all areas of the body, but we have what we know now, the gut-brain axis, the second brain, and this bidirectional messaging that's coming. We know now that there are more messages going back up from the gut to the brain than what there is going down from the brain to the gut. So when we're eating food, the brain is sending messages to the pancreas to produce certain enzymes. But we know that now that there are far more messages going back up. Serotonin's made in the gut. Our hormones are made in the gut. Our feel-good neurotransmitters, all of that begins in the gut. And we have that. The blood-brain barrier is a protective delivery system for the nutrients that the brain needs. But if there are toxins being leaking through the intestinal permeability in the gut into the bloodstream, they will cross the blood-brain barrier and cause all sorts of problems. So we need serotonin. It's a precursor to melatonin. It's really important for sleep. It's really important for motility. It's also really important for mood. But what we know now is that bacteria in the gut, like an overgrowth of bad bacteria in the gut, inhibits the production of these neurotransmitters. So if we have an overgrowth of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth or leaky gut, we now know that that will inhibit the production of neurotransmitters. And we also metabolize our hormones through the gut. The liver is metabolizing the hormones all the time. It's cleaning the blood, but it's also metabolizing hormones. So if our liver is sluggish and we've got an overgrowth of bad bacteria, and we've got the bile pathways compromised by bad bacteria, then that whole vicious cycle can really impact our mood, our sleep, and our hormones. But stress also has a massive impact on all areas of our life. So we have cortisol. As soon as we have cortisol flooding our system, and of course we have almost a situation of continual cortisol. We don't have a saber-toothed tiger living at the end of the driveway, but we have social media, we have our mobile phones, we have electromagnetic technology and radiation, we have pollutants in the air, we have pollutants in our food chain. All of these are impacting our stress. And we have, our boss, our teenage children, our aging parents are all contributing to that stress picture. And we never seem to be getting a bit of a break from it. But the cortisol has a big impact on our hormones. Okay, cortisol is, when I talk about hormones, I'm always talking about the main feisty 4 hormones: the stress hormones, the sex hormones, your insulin response, and your thyroid stimulating hormone. Because all of that, they're interacting all the time, these feisty 4. But when we have cortisol kicking off, we have a release of insulin. Now, insulin is a fat-storing hormone. So if we are all day in high cortisol and we're not getting a break from that, then we're constantly having this message to our bodies to store fat. It's also putting tremendous strain on the heart. It's causing a change in our sensitivity to pain. It's causing potentially high blood sugar. So then we're feeling like we're wanting to eat more. We're constantly hungry. We're constantly grazing. Definitely will affect our memory and our attention. It affects the gut and it affects the immune system. And we know that the immune system, 70% of our immune system comes from our gut. The epithelial lining, the mucosal barrier in the gut, that's where the immune system begins. That's the first line of defense for the immune system. So what can we do about that? And for those that have recently joined us, or if you're watching on replay, what I would like for you to think about is one thing that you could do differently as a result of what you're going to hear tonight. Just one thing, because there's a lot of information, but one thing that you could do differently. So we also know now that it's a wonderful time to be in as a nutritionist and a gut specialist, that what we're finding out now about the microbiome of our family, our community, our environment, our soil, is also linked to our skin, our oral, lung, vaginal, nostril microbiome. And all of these microbiomes are communicating via the axes, the HPA axis, the gut-lung axis, the gut-brain connections, all communicating all the time. And it's all impacted by diet, medication, chemicals, toxins, exposure to mold, heavy metals, and our hormones. So it's all connected. So it's important that we manage a natural rhythm. We aim to reduce our stress, aim to focus on a diet that is as much as possible free from ultra-processed foods. We'll talk about that a little bit more. That we focus on sleep and we focus on gentle movement to help support our microbiome, that flourishing good bacteria in the gut. So, but how do we reduce stress when we have a mind that is constantly active, when we're feeling overwhelmed all the time, and we may be feeling irritable and unmotivated and struggling with low self-esteem and stuck in this cycle of negativity about ourselves? What I have found very useful is tapping. So EFT, emotional freedom technique. And I like to combine a few things. So I like to do tapping. I like to do laughing. So I'm a trained laughter yoga person, and I will be doing some pop-up laughter yoga workshops in town soon. I'll let you know when. I like to move all day. So I've got a standing desk, and I like to be on the move. So even when I'm speaking with clients, I speak with my hands. I like to just move my body. So, and maybe you will all have something that you maybe use, whether it's meditation, or have you tried EFT tapping? I love the app Insight Timer. In fact, on Insight Timer, I have found a combination of EFT and laughter yoga. So you can be tapping and laughing, moving that stress through the body through either exercising, changing your state, or journaling. Even journaling about overwhelm can help move that stress through the body. Mindfulness at meal times is really important to the way we digest. So even just slowing your meals down so you are mindfully chewing the food on your plate rather than being stuck in eating and rushing, eating and walking, eating and driving, eating and watching, eating and working, making space in your routine for just sitting down and eating, and making it an aim not to just rush up. Like, I'm guilty of this myself, but I try and sit and eat and slow down and just sit at the table for a little bit longer before rushing up, clearing the plates, loading the dishwasher onto the next thing, go, 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 go. Just trying to slow it down and be a little bit more mindful about slowing it down. Saying no, like rejoicing when I say no and not making an excuse for when I say no, not apologizing for when I say no. This takes a lot of practice, and I'm actually getting some coaching around this, because I'm just, like, say yes to too many things and then feel overwhelmed and not making myself a priority. So really good during the day is, even if you're setting an alarm, like checking in with how you're feeling. Where in your body are you feeling maybe tense in the shoulders, tense in the neck, tense in the jaw, and what do you need and want? How do you want to feel? So I just have a moment in the day, like before I start work each day, where I just do a little bit of journaling. How do I want to feel today? And then I can check in with myself later in the day. Okay, am I feeling that way now? If I'm not feeling that way, what can I do right now to move me closer towards that feeling that I wanted at the beginning of the day? So for me, being in sobriety now, I really want to feel calm. I want to sleep well. I want to feel connected. I want to feel connected to my breath. Like, having 32 years of asthma has meant that for 32 years, I've been a really shallow breather. So I want to feel that I'm getting my breath as deep down in my belly as possible, that I'm grounded in my feet and I'm feeling connected. So a couple of times during the day, I might, if I remember, I check in with myself. Okay, how am I feeling right now? Is that what I wanted to feel? And if it's not, what can I do right now to move me closer to that feeling? So it might be shaking it out, might be walking around outside for just a walk around the house, walk around the garden, EFT tapping, shaking it out, laughing, doing a bit of laughter, that sort of thing, to move me back and move that stress through the body. Because we know that, high stress leads to the release of cortisol, and that can contribute to gut permeability. It can contribute to IBS, and it can contribute to poor sleep. So connecting back into the body, even if it's for 5 seconds, quick body scan. Where is it feeling tight? Maybe it's in the chest, maybe it's in the belly, maybe you've got that butterfly feeling in the belly. Checking in with how you feel and how you want to feel. Where do you feel this in the body? And having self-compassion when you overeat. I know that a lot of us, if we're getting nervous, we're getting overwhelmed, we will tend to go straight to emotional eating at the cupboard, standing at the fridge, standing at the cupboard, just eating everything in sight. Trying to take a step back from that, having the compassion when you've done that, but having a little bit of self-compassion and stepping back from that. Have a few deep breaths. What do you really need? Is it a chat with someone? Is it a connection? Is it a moment with legs up the wall, lying down with your legs up the wall? Is it a big glass of water? And knowing when to ask for help. So whether that, help from me might look like meal plans or juice delivery or testing or supplements, but, reaching out when you know that if you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, who's in your A team that's going to help you? So I say to my clients, I'm in your A team now. You rely on me for bandwidth, for organization, for meal planning, for, almost telling you what to do, what to eat, what not to eat. It can be sometimes really helpful. Okay, some of the things that we know that are really helpful is limiting your exposure to processed foods. Now, this is really tricky. And look, even coffee that's put in a packet is processed, but it can be very good for you in small amounts. But what I would like to clarify here is probably ultra-processed foods. Ultra-processed foods that you cannot pronounce, that you would not find in your single ingredient pantry, that are masquerading as food, but they would probably have a lot of E numbers and preservatives and things that you cannot pronounce, things that to look at the name of something, you can't imagine that as a food. Like if it's got foods that you understand, like dates or cacao or coconut or cashews, that's real food. But if you're looking at something that's mono blah, 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 that you can't even pronounce, then it's not real food. And so to limit your exposure to ultra-processed foods, we know that that will have a big impact on the gut health, which will also impact your hormones. Now, for a lot of people, avoiding gluten, like particularly refined flour products, so lots of refined pastas, even white rice for some people can be problematic. Hot chocolates that are, some of the hot chocolates, you just think, oh my goodness, it's so full of nonsense. Cheap chocolates, definitely alcohol. Alcohol is probably one of the most damaging things to the permeability of your gut, to the mucosal barrier, to your digestive enzymes, to your hormones. And it may seem like you're using alcohol as a coping mechanism, as a way of turning your brain down, turning the noise down. But in the long term, it really impacts your serotonin. It really impacts your dopamine. It impacts your neurotransmitters. It impacts all the gut lining. And it may seem like a short-term solution, but, I've done a lot of work around this, and it's hard, but it's so worth it to really reduce or avoid alcohol. Now, interestingly, dried fruits, particularly if they contain sulfur, can be really problematic, and fruit juices that are processed. So fruit juices that are heat treated and have a long shelf life and may be made from concentrate, probably will have a lot of potentially mold, quite prone to mold and toxins, and very high in sugar. So you're not getting a lot of nutrient value from the fruit juice. Avoid foods that you may find that you're addicted to or allergic to. So particularly peanuts, sometimes eggs. It's worth getting tested. I do food sensitivity tests. Any foods that you crave. And if you notice that you are red in the face, you've got red earlobes, you've got really red cheeks, and you've got dark circles under your eyes, that could be a sign of food sensitivity. And it's very common with gut issues that there is actually a lot of food sensitivities. Be aware of sugar and the million gazillion names for sugar. I think there's about 59 different names for sugar. High fructose corn syrup, fructose, maltose, all that sort of nonsense. Be aware of too much sugar. Be aware of too many combinations of food on your plate, like that feeling of after Christmas lunch where you've had too much food and you're nearly in a food coma. Too many digestive enzymes needed to break down a meal that is that big. It's not really the aim. To feeling so tired that you have to go to sleep after a meal is a sure sign that you've either had too many combinations of food on the plate, or you've been too dehydrated, or the food you've eaten you're sensitive to. Avoid rushed meals, avoid hectic meals, avoid constant snacking, avoid exposure to deep fat fried foods can often be really problematic. Okay, so try not to judge yourself, or if you spiral into shame and guilt around foods that will impact your hormones. So lots of booze, lots of refined foods, deep fat fried foods, lots of coffee can all be very challenging to the hormones, very challenging to the gut-brain connection, very challenging to the thyroid. Don't beat yourself up. Just don't throw everything out of the window and think, oh, well, I might as well just give up. I'm crap. I'm terrible. Oh, I'm useless. I'll never get this right. All those stories that you say to yourself, if you can try and capture those. I mean, I had a world of shame and guilt around alcohol for many, many years. And I wasn't a big drinker. I wasn't no rock bottom or anything like that for me, but I was relying on it to switch my brain off. And I was also relying on it to manage chronic pain. Now I'm finding much better ways to manage chronic pain and overwhelm, trying to say no and trying to make space in my diary and trying to switch off in other ways, meditation and chamomile tea is my go-to now, rather than half a bottle of red wine. As I said, be aware of the sugar industry. You know, we do need naturally occurring sugars. They are essential for life. However, refined sugars are detrimental to life, and not all sugar is equal. So if you're enjoying a kiwi fruit, which is amazing for your gut, or some pineapple, fresh pineapple, not tinned, or, you know, half a green banana, very, very good for your gut health, those sugars are really, really good. If you're if you're looking in your kitchen cupboard and all you see is lots of sweets and treats and sparkly packages and crinkly packages that you're really drawn to, that's going to be detrimental for your gut and your brain. Make sure you stay hydrated. You know, I love either water kefir or coconut water, but having, you know, as soon as you get out of bed in the morning, having that first big glass of water to hydrate your body and your colon. I love adding a little bit of a lemon elixir to that, like a squeeze of fresh lemon, a little bit of apple cider vinegar, a little pinch of cayenne pepper, or a little pinch of salt, because where salt goes, water will follow. And you want to get that water into the cells to, you know, for feeling good, for feeling, you know, nice and light and bright. But one thing to say about water is that never drink and eat at the same time. So if you're one of these people that sits down with a big glass of water during and drinking that during your meal, you are diluting your digestive enzymes. We know that we have less digestive enzymes as we age, particularly in the perimenopause and the menopause and beyond. And we also have hydrochloric acid in the stomach that needs to be very potent. So if you're drinking water at the same time as you're eating, you're diluting that hydrochloric acid, you're diluting those digestive enzymes. So have your water before your meal, then have your meal, chewing slowly, have your water maybe half an hour after your meal. But maybe that is a good change for some of you that are so used to having lots of drinks and eating at the same time. You definitely can balance your hormones with the foods that you eat. Do you get pleasure and satisfaction from eating this way, where you're getting really good fats, foods that are high into antioxidants, a good range of seeds? It's fantastic for your hormones, for protein, and chewing these foods really well. Good healthy fats from things like avocados when they're in season, blueberries, cherries, raspberries, that sort of thing. All of these are really good dopamine supporting foods, but they're also really good for reducing cortisol. So oily fish, but if you're vegan, making sure you're getting really good EPA, DHA. So a good range of walnut oil, hemp oil, olive oil, avocado oil, any of those oils, having those in your diet regularly, cold pressed from the health food shop, and, you know, swapping them around each time you buy one. So you're getting different varieties of oils. But, you know, 3 portions of oily fish a week. Please don't talk to me about mercury. I'm reading stuff about fish at the moment. I'm like, oh my God, please don't do this to the fish. But anyway, we need to have good omega-3 in our diet to help our brain. Our body needs lots of vitamin C. So oranges don't agree with me, interestingly. Like, I've had my food sensitivity test done. But lemons, limes, fantastic. Grapefruit, fantastic. Clementines, mandarins, really good. And of course, you're getting lots of vitamin C from your dark leafy green vegetables. And we're so lucky here in Australia. We've got Farmers Market, Microgreens, Community Soil Project, Hawkwood. You know, we've got so many brilliant, wonderfully, beautifully, locally sourced leafy green suppliers. So really, you know, have plenty of those in your diet. Green tea, interesting, for L-theanine. Now, this is very good for crossing the blood-brain barrier. It's very protective to the brain. It's very good for the hormones, very good for the thyroid. So green tea regularly, very, very good. Interesting, cheese, like particularly goat's cheese, can be really good, or raw cheese. Now, not good for absolutely everybody. Some people really can't tolerate dairy. I can't, for example. But having a little bit of goat's cheese can be really good. mid-afternoon snack that's high in protein, high in fat can help to reduce the cortisol, to reduce the stress of the day, can also help with sleep later on, because you've got to think about that sleep cycle as being a 24-hour cycle. Interesting, soybeans actually contain an ingredient that is a cortisol blocker. Again, not everyone can tolerate soy. Be very mindful of non-GMO. Organic soy is preferable, but soy can be very, very useful for some people. And how do you know? Well, the best way probably is to have a food sensitivity test, so you know exactly the foods that are suitable for you. Progesterone is so vital, and we make less of this, of course, in the perimenopause. Progesterone is the calm hormone. So it helps you sleep, helps you feel good about yourself, and it helps you feel calm at the end of the day to sleep well. You can get progesterone from foods, particularly your cruciferous vegetables like your broccoli, your new best friend. 2 portions a day is vital during your perimenopause and menopause. But your cabbage, your cauliflower, all sorts of beans, your nuts, I'll come to walnuts in a moment, which are fantastic for the brain, but all sorts of pumpkin. And look out for the Crown Prince pumpkin at the moment. It's an Australian variety. They are fantastic eating. You will get them at the Stroud Farmers Market. They're so good. They've got a pale blue grey tinge to the skin, and they're very good eating. They're very, very good for your hormones. Smoothies are, you may know that I deliver smoothies locally. I love my smoothies. I've been juicing and making smoothies now for 39 years, and I absolutely love my daily smoothie. I can pack so much into a smoothie for the kids, for myself. I put protein in, I put probiotics in, I put good oils in there. Sometimes I make them too green. My kids don't like them if they're too green, but I can make a really healthy chocolate milkshake that's got some greens, some protein powder, some coconut water, and some cacao, and a little bit of cashew milk or something, and they think it's a chocolate milkshake. So you can make a smoothie that's really good. Cinnamon, very good for helping balance your blood sugar, and you know, making sure you're getting plenty of fresh air is a good thing. I do love my smoothies, adding in some protein and some fat into the smoothies, whether it's through cashews or avocados, or even some oil, like a little bit of hemp oil, flax seeds, very, very good to add into your smoothies. And, you know, getting that diversity in, which is a fun way, but you can batch make your smoothies. I tend to make 3 days worth at a time. Keeps really well in the fridge in glass. Fill your bottle up to the top. Can be a really good way of, you know, something that's easy, grab and go when you're busy or stressed. Just, no, it doesn't take much thinking to just grab a smoothie out of the fridge and off you go. Okay, let's talk about some of the latest research in terms of supplements and in terms of the nutrients that you need to support your brain. Really important, particularly for your hormones. So clearance of your hormones. So ladies, if you're becoming accidentally overweight, particularly in your perimenopause and your menopause, it's a good chance that you're deficient in B12. And B12 is the nutrient that is needed to metabolize your hormones. So the hormones can get stuck and they get reabsorbed into adipose tissue in the belly and the bum, and B12 can really help clear that. Vitamin D is so vital for your gut lining. It's also really important for your hormones. B2, vitamin A, C, zinc, very, very important. Adaptogens can be really useful particularly for your thyroid. If you've already been diagnosed or you think that you might have some autoimmune condition, adaptogens can be really good. So what I'm talking about here is your ashwagandha, your medicinal mushrooms like cordyceps, lion's mane, reishi, rhodiola, tremala, all of those good they're adaptogenic herbs. They will come in to the body to support whatever component, whatever system that the body needs help with, whether it's digestive system or the endocrine system, or the central nervous system. They come in and adapt to help whatever help you need. Now, walnuts are really high in alpha-linoleic acid, and having, you know, a small handful of walnuts a day can be really good for your brain. Now, clinical trials are now showing that vitamin D combined with bifidobacterium, which is a specific strain of probiotic, can improve inattention and hyperactivity. And also high doses of vitamin D, like I'm talking 5,000 IU a day, like that's maybe 4 sprays of your Better You. It's a very high dose of vitamin D. It's worth, again, getting tested just to see what your vitamin D is doing. Do easy home kits, really easy. But high doses of magnesium and specific strains of bacteria to help reduce your symptoms. Zinc, we know, does act as a dopamine reuptake inhibitor in the same way that ADHD stimulant meds do. So, you know, making sure you're getting lots of zinc in your diet can be really useful. We know that deficiencies in B1, B6, C, zinc, and amino acids and vitamin E lead to a sluggish thyroid. So if you have been diagnosed with hypothyroid, maybe really worthwhile having a full blood panel to check what those nutrient levels are doing. You know, also vitamin C is so important for your thyroid and for your liver. So look, even omega-3, we know that this is really important for the brain signaling, and it really influences serotonin receptors. So making sure you're getting those good oils in. Having a drizzle of oil over your veggies every day can be really, very good. Are you eating enough diversity? You know, we really aim, when we're rebuilding the gut, we really try to aim for 30 to 50 different types of food a week in terms of plants. Now, you may think that that is crazy amount, but it's not that hard if you are thinking about your herbs. So I love to make an antimicrobial pesto with maybe 3 or 4 or 5 different herbs in each week. Think about your seeds, all your different seeds: pumpkin seeds, hemp seeds, sunflower seeds, chia seeds, linseeds. You know, you already have a handful of different seeds. Think about some nuts, and you're already, you know, a third of the way there. And then you think about your variation in fruit and veg. Now, wonderful if you get a box delivery, you've got local produce. But when you go shopping, it's so easy to get stuck in the same meals, the same routine, because it's safe. But really trying to diversify what we're eating is important. So thinking about foods that you don't normally eat, maybe trying them, you know, every now and then, adding them in. Be aware that your symptoms of hunger may mimic your ADHD symptoms. So, you know, when we're feeling really frazzled and we want to eat everything in sight, where we're maybe struggling with brain fog and we're exhausted, sometimes we can be quite confused that we're hungry. So we end up overeating, and then we end up in this vicious cycle of beating ourselves up and feeling guilty and full of shame. Sometimes what we do need is maybe a little bit of fresh air instead, or some gentle water or gentle legs up the wall, a little bit of a break from what we're doing. Now, every meal doesn't have to be Instagram worthy meal, but avoiding too much processed foods. Look, having just a jar of seeds and nuts on the go and chewing them really well, like just having a big jar of, like, I've just got everything in there, like walnuts, Brazil nuts, pecans, almond seeds, having a couple of spoonfuls of that a day, really good protein, really good fat, giving my brain what it needs, and quick and easy, helps to remove the pressure when, you know, kids are hungry and in the kitchen, wow, what's for dinner? I do like to make one-pot meals, slow-cooked meals, so I can just do something quickly in the pot and put it on first thing in the morning, so it's ready for late in the evening. But having some grab-and-go options for days that don't take a lot of planning. So I love doing a broth. So I might have, you know, a broth in the stock cupboard, a little bit of turmeric paste, something like that, easy to add, a bit of broccoli, and, you know, put that on the hob, put it on quickly, and just know that we're getting diversity, but it's not processed. It's just quite easy. Grab and go options for breakfast. I love my chia puddings that really quick, or a smoothie, and just a smoothie that I've made the day before. So it's, you know, it's quite easy for the days when you don't have a lot of energy. I love my salad jars. So I like to do maybe 3 days worth of salad jars, get a little bit of oily fish and some eggs. I know that I'm really getting good zinc, good, I like to put a little bit of dressing on the bottom, then some grated carrot and some beetroot, maybe boil an egg. I usually sometimes boil, 3 days of eggs, and I've got them in the fridge. So again, they're nice and quick, so I don't really have to think about it. It looks pretty in the fridge, and it can keep in a jar for a couple of days, no problem. So think about making sure you're getting magnesium from leafy greens, because you need magnesium from nuts and seeds and whole grains if you can cope with. Like, there's some great brands now of keto breads. Sunshine Bakery has a fantastic award-winning keto bread. Thinking about fat and protein. So eggs, meat if you eat it, legumes if you don't, vitamin C fruits, your citrus fruits, your strawberries, your pineapples, your broccoli, your Brussels sprouts, and your good fats from oily fish or seeds and nuts. Think about, rainbow foods and having that little bit of variety. So hopefully healthy plate at each meal that doesn't have to be too difficult to put together. I use essential oils to help manage cravings. So I use doTERRA, particularly Zengest, peppermint and lemon, to occasionally I'll put 1 drop in water. I will rub it on my hands. I use it like a human diffuser, just smelling peppermint oil, little bit of lemon in my water, sometimes cinnamon in a smoothie is enough to help keep cravings at bay, and it helps me drink more water. So I know that, putting 1 drop of peppermint in a big bottle of glass water is quite refreshing, and it can be helping me to combat sugar cravings. So a little bit of a checklist of foods that I recommend to my clients that are really good for your brain, that are really good for your hormones. Ideally, vegetables every day, ideally organic, or if they're locally grown, fantastic. If they're not necessarily organic, but they're local, I would always choose local over shipped in from Israel. I shouldn't say Israel, it's not a very good example, but shipped in from Spain, organic. I'd rather have something local, and we're really blessed around here. Adding in some good fermented foods can be really good for your gut. Just add in a little bit, go nice and low and slow, making sure you're getting good fats. Herbal teas like your green tea, licorice tea if you're stressed, spearmint tea can be very, very good for your stress. Beautiful nighttime teas available. Thinking about not having too much caffeine, too many stimulants that can really trigger that feeling of overwhelm and stress. Single ingredient foods that that don't need a label, that have 25 ingredients that you cannot pronounce. Seeds and sprouts, very good. We need enzymes for digestion. Chewing your food really well helps to produce enzymes. But we know that if we have thyroid challenges, if we have adrenal fatigue, and if we're in the menopause, then we know that from tests, we can ascertain in tests whether you have sufficient enzymes. So adding in digestive enzymes can be a really good life-changing supplement to add in if you're not digesting your food well. So I use the best supplements. I use primarily whole food supplements that are based on organic food, that have 35 billion plus friendly bacteria. So we know that those probiotics and prebiotics are really good for the gut-brain connection. They include trace minerals, antioxidants, and they're derived from organic fruit and vegetables. So, and they're available on my shop, trishtuckermay.com/shop. They contain digestive enzymes. So these range of supplements that I use, particularly superfoods, is quite unique in the way that it is firstly a powder, so it is not a capsule, so it's not difficult to swallow for those that have trouble swallowing capsules. It contains your digestive enzymes and your prebiotics and your probiotics and all the necessary magnesium, B12, etc. that you need, and it's all in one pack. So normally when we recommend digestive enzymes, we'd have digestive enzymes, probiotics, and antioxidants as 3 separate supplements. This is all in one, and it's available on my shop. That's quite unique. A little bit about blood sugar. Look, when we are stressed, we can be very prone to snacking all the time. Snacking all the time spikes your blood sugar and it plays havoc with your hormones. So try and avoid constant snacking. If you are a constant snacker and you are snacking every hour, for example, you are missing out on a really important phase of digestion. It's called migrating motor complexes, and it's the 3rd stage of digestion. And in that phase 3 of digestion, all the bacteria is swept from the small intestine. So a couple of tips on managing blood sugar. Eat enough protein and fat. Not necessarily skipping meals, but if you are fasting, some people that are fasting, this increasing your non-eating window can be really good for balancing your blood sugar, as long as you're not too stressed. If you are fasting and you are jittery and you are feeling anxious, and then within your eating window you eat way too much sugar, that is not going to do your hormones any favor. So listen to your body. If you are doing a little bit of fasting and you're increasing that non-eating window to maybe 12 hours or 14 hours or 16 hours, within your eating window, you want to make sure you still drink plenty of water, you're exercising regularly, and you're eating enough fat and protein. Now, I do run a program. I run a one-to-one program, and I run a group program. And this is also the basis of my book. And I've broken it down into a step-by-step guide. Firstly, we nourish. So we hydrate well, we eat well, and we thrive. And we don't deprive ourselves. Then we cleanse. We use a variety of techniques to cleanse and look at our lifestyle differently. So we may look at restoring and redesigning our life. So we are making time to restore balance, to rest and repair, to realign and feel a little bit more connected to ourselves. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I do run a range of tests that can be done in the privacy of your own home. I do the Dutch test, which is a hormone and stress cortisol awakening test that gauges all of your hormones, your stress hormones, your neurotransmitters, and your sex hormones, and your B12 and that sort of good stuff. But it also shows us how well you're metabolizing your hormones. It's really, really powerful information if you're considering HRT, or even if you are already taking HRT. I do comprehensive stool tests that can really tell what's going on. Do you have leaky gut? Do you have SIBO? Do you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria? Do you have a parasite? Do you have yeast, mold, candida? Do you have heavy metals? And I also do neurotransmitter tests. And this is really interesting to know. Are you producing enough GABA? What's your dopamine doing? And when we know what we're low in or what is out of balance, we know what the protocol can be, what the treatment plan can be. We know that we're working on the right things. So testing really takes out the guesswork. So no matter where you are on your health journey, maybe you're just aware of your symptoms, like you've got this discomfort, your body's starting to shout. Maybe you already have a bit of knowledge about the root cause of your symptoms. Maybe you've got some experience already in doing some work with regards to nutrition and lifestyle and supplements. But wherever you are on your health journey, think about some new goals. And maybe there's something tonight that I've shared with you that you could incorporate. And I'd love to hear from you what that might be. So I do help primarily women. I do see men and children, but primarily I work with women to help them reclaim their vitality. I was going to share with you some additional resources tonight. One resource that I really do love is the ADHD Women's Wellbeing website and the podcast. I find that's really, really good. I did have a few other books, and I might put them in the group. There's the Julia Ross, The Food Mood Cure, is very, very good. And I did have a GAPS diet book from Australia that I wanted to share with you. So I'll pop those photos in the group. But finally focused also, I think James Greenblatt is a good resource for breakthroughs in natural treatment plans that you might be interested in. So whether you are struggling or you're just curious about your gut health and your hormone health, reach out to me. Make time to nourish, invest in yourself, in your nutrition, your supplements, your lifestyle. I really welcome you to join the Time to Nourish Facebook group. And if you do want a copy of my book, come to the book launch on the 26th of next Thursday at the Long Table, or it is available on my website, trishtackermay.com. Thank you so much for listening. What we'll do is we'll stop the recording now and we'll answer some questions.